All right, super duper awesome, amazing family. It's time for us to do the podcast.
Sorry, Bria has to play her game.
Are you recording?
No, not
Okay, Olive's finally made it down here. We have one of two daughters now in the room for podcast episode 2. Pretty excited. I've made myself do it. Had to work today, got home, got the dishes done, got the kitchen clean, hung out for a little while, just got dinner in the oven, so at some point towards the end of the podcast, I'll have to tell Olive to turn off the oven because we're having enchiladas for dinner, and so I made enchiladas, got them in the oven, and then got the podcast set up. Now we're waiting for Bria to finish her round of her video game, and she will be down to join us. Olive, episode 2. How did you feel about episode 1?
Definitely felt that there was a bit of rambling going on, but that was expected for the first time. And like you said, you warned that in that video, but I'm pretty confident on what's happening so far. And we got good, how do I explain it? We got good views and people interacting with our videos, so that was pretty good.
I agree. I gotta get a little more volume here, I think. Trying to get better audio. We'll see how it goes here. Obviously, we will get better as we go. I think that looks a little bit better. So, I don't want us to play characters. I don't like how it sounds like you're not talking in your normal voice.
Me?
I'm just saying, don't feel like... So, how do you feel, about doing this? Now that we've done an episode, and you kind of... Again, I rambled a lot in the first, and I'm probably going to ramble a lot for the first few, because my kids don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing. We're just starting something, and it's definitely kind of my idea. They're not pushing me to do this. And so it's one of those, I'm trying to lead by example, I guess. Show them what I think a grown-up should be, what I think adults should talk like, what I think human beings should talk like. The fact that when I was a kid, nobody ever talked to me like... Still, I'm 45 years old, and older people or richer people or whatever still talk to you like you're not the same as them or something. And it's interesting because I've never wanted to have somebody be below me, or I've never wanted to be above somebody like that. And so this is me setting an example for my kids, talking to my kids like no adult when I was a kid ever just talked to me like a normal human being. It's like they always talk to you like you're a kid, or there's always secret things, or it's the grown-ups have to talk and the kids have to go out. And then when you're an adult, it's the managers need to talk and the workers need to go out, or it's the government needs to talk and the citizens need to go out. It's like that's our entire lives are these hierarchy things, and I hate that. It's bullshit. Anybody who feels like they need to be in a hierarchy is sad. And so these are my daughters, and I have a son and a daughter that have grown up and are on their own, and I tried to influence them for good as much as I could, but I have 2 daughters left, and I want these daughters to be strong and confident and speak their mind and not feel like you're going to disrespect somebody for saying something, because anybody who gets disrespected by you saying something is just a small person that can't handle the truth usually. And so those are examples that I want these girls to feel. And so I wanted to start a podcast, and I'm going to tell a lot of my story with them here, because they haven't heard a lot of my story, and a lot of people haven't heard a lot of my story. And so I'm nobody special. I'm an open book, and I'm going to talk about my life, very much open wound, ripping Band-Aids off, raw in the natural. because that's what I like. Every single person that I've challenged that's not that doesn't like it. And so I became more and more adamant about being very open and raw myself, asking challenging questions, having challenging conversations. And so I am going to ramble a lot, but that's because, first of all, these girls don't know what we're talking about. And I don't know if they fully trust me that this is a real thing or this is going to go somewhere. But I hope to inspire them to want to help people, and through breaking down walls and talking about subjects that people just ignore that need to be talked about. And so, yeah, interrupt me whenever you want.
I definitely didn't have the confidence of, like, my mindset was like, man, my dad is crazy for wanting to do this. Because my dad has always been that kind of person to reach for the stars in a way, because that's just how he always was ever since I grew up. And so I definitely was like, man, this isn't going to go well. But I'm definitely more confident now than I was, like, the first few episodes.
Why didn't you think it was going to... what were you worried about? What were your thoughts?
I wasn't really worried, but my first thoughts were basically just like, this isn't going to go the way he wants it to go.
Yeah.
And the way he's
telling us
it's going to go. And that was what I was worried about.
Or I guess and so has it? Or is this not what you were thinking? Or what were you thinking?
It's more than I expected, definitely for our first episode.
As far as what we talked about? Yes. Okay. Well, it was very much... again, this is... I had this conversation with Bria last night, and she can butt in now that she's here, and we're going to set a marker for Bria, because her phone's now in here. We're going to obviously get more cameras, and I'm going to... Are you serious?
It's in the trash can right now.
It doesn't sound like it is.
I put it in the trash can.
The trash can's over there next to the door.
Okay, that explains why it sounds over there.
And so that's where it's coming from?
Yeah.
We might have... Somebody might have to... Can you go, Bria, and take that to the... Can you go? Well, I don't know how heavy it is. Well, I don't want to just set it outside, because if the neighbors hear it, it's going to be annoying. So I'm saying somebody needs to run it down to the garbage, and I don't know if that's too heavy for you to carry.
Okay.
If it's not going to shut up, or maybe just jiggle the trash can.
Yeah, kick it. Last time I just moved it.
Like it sound, or just literally like jiggle the trash, or pick the trash can up.
Bro.
Do you see it at all?
No, I put lots of stuff in there. It's buried.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't leave. So, yeah.
I'm leaving.
I will keep... Yeah, Brie, I'll be right back. Sorry, this is going to be raw. This is how I want it to be, in a way. Like, I don't... I mean, this is just us hanging out. I hope... Like, literally, I hope to do fun stuff with the girls, like little competitions or challenges. We loved the engagement. I was excited. I appreciate everybody. Like, we got 3 or 4 comments, I think, on TikTok, and we've had good viewing on TikTok, and I appreciate it. And we are going to get to the point soon, like we're not going to do it today, but hopefully within the next episode or 2, where we can read and interact. We had a comment by G that was saying that I was rambling a lot, and I agree. I said that I'm going to ramble. I do ramble, but I enjoy having conversations, so I feel like I have a lot of interesting points, not that other people don't, so I want to interact with other people in the same way and share ideas back and forth. I want to be challenged on my ideas. I literally want... Kids need to be able to call out their parents on bullshit, and so I want my kids to be able to feel comfortable enough to call out bullshit, because if you have parents that you can't question what they're talking about, then you have bad parents. Because I grew up with parents that only gave me one side, and that was their side. I was kind of lied to and manipulated for most of my life, especially growing up in the church. Like, I literally thought God was real. I used to try to talk to God. And then even after I was out of church and married and had kids, I went through this weird phase where I was trying to still find God and think that he was real because I believed it so much. And so, what?
Like, talking about the lying thing, I definitely had that. Not so much my dad. My dad has probably, like, never lied to me, ever. But with my mom, I remember my parents are divorced, clearly, probably. And we didn't really talk much about my mom, but I remember probably this year she knows that I don't really remember when I was younger, partially just like you don't usually. And so she would tell me that she had me like in custody fully until I was like 4 or 5. That's what she told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. And so, yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I know there was lots of weird stuff that you don't know about because you were younger, and definitely we can have those conversations. And I want to have people on to have those conversations too, because I find that the people that do the meanest, baddest, worst things are the people that hide and don't want to talk about it. Because every person that I've challenged in my life that maybe they don't know what they're talking about, or maybe they're not as good as they portray themselves to be, whenever I've essentially questioned an adult or authority figure, it's almost never gone okay. It's like they literally always go into like that fight or flight mode where they get mad, yell, run away, want to hit you or beat you up or something. And it's like you see that animalistic nature in people, and it's not okay. We need to start having those conversations and breaking down those walls. And so I'm supposed to be a parent and raise my kids to be adults. Like, nobody ever taught me how to be an adult. Nobody ever taught me how to be a parent. We just always have authority figures over us and tell us what to do. But I never wanted to be like that for my kids. I wanted to teach them and explain things, but also be more of a friend and a companion and a mentor than someone that just barks orders. Because if you're a parent that just barks orders, then you teach kids to just sit down and do what they're told. And so then they just have bosses and they get barked at with orders, and they live an entire life where they're never really free. But that's kind of our society in general, honestly. But it's like, I don't want my kids to feel like that, and I don't want them to go through that. And so I'm very much one of those, like, I don't like grown-ups. I don't know why. Like, people probably make fun of me and say, you know, that's probably your problem, and whatever it is. Because every grown-up that I've ever met has been somebody that I don't like, because they're usually stubborn, they're usually ignorant, they usually say and do things without question, and everything should be able to be questioned, because essentially everything bad that's happened to this point today in our world happens because people get to do things without being questioned about them. They just get to tell people to do them, and that's not okay. And so I want to influence my daughters for the better. I want to challenge them on conversations. Like, Olive has a band concert tomorrow, and are you excited for your band concert?
I think I am.
You think you are?
I think, yeah, partially just because I feel like my band teacher really didn't, like, have enough time to teach the piece that we're going. And today we went through the whole piece, and parts and bits that he went through with us, like, really deeply sounded really good. But the parts that he thought were easy, which really aren't easy, especially for, like, certain people, he didn't go with those people a lot, which I understand that he's a teacher and he's busy, but he's also should help us. And
No. Hey, Coda.
my band teacher also isn't the nicest person all the time, and
What do you mean by that? Like, just grouchy? Like,
he's
doesn't...
he's probably the opposite of grouchy.
Okay.
He's very, like, cartoony in a way, but he's definitely you can definitely tell who he likes and who he doesn't like, because he'll get on to the people he likes or dislikes a lot more than he would people they like, even though people he likes
Coda.
still do the same
What
mess
are you doing?
ups.
Oh my god. What is that?
So
You're weird.
he definitely made a few of my friends cry
Hmm.
just for, like, pointing them out in front of the class and yelling at them and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough, though, because, again, I tried to get you to watch Whiplash. Because it's like, again, when we're recording this now on Tuesday. We're gonna try to get on a weekly schedule where we're recording on Sundays and Saturdays. So I've always had 50-50 custody of my kids, and so I have week on, week off. And so if we record when Olive's here, then we'll record on Sunday and Saturday. So it's going to be our normal schedule. But, today we're recording on Tuesday because Olive's birthday was last week. She turned 12, and they had like a big birthday weekend with her mom, and so she was really tired yesterday or on Sunday, and then yesterday was kind of a busy, tiring day as well. So we're doing it today. I want to get on. We're going to do once a week, no matter what. Hopefully we can get on even more of a regular schedule, but it also kind of depends on engagement, and hopefully again people will ask us questions. And we had a comment on TikTok I mentioned something about genocide, and I'm very big on genocide because I don't like people doing bad things to other people. Like, that's the biggest reason that I'm doing this, is I've been a part of a world for 45 years and people kind of pretending to help people, and then lots of really capable, wealthy enough people that could help and make a change that don't. And it's just like, we have a world today where literally I'm sitting in a house right now, comfortable and warm, but I know that someone somewhere is dying of exposure or dying of hunger or dying of a disease and a sickness that could be helped and could be stopped. And so it's like, we used to be able to live in ignorance. Now we get to see it in front of our faces all the time. Somebody living this luxurious life on a yacht and then taking pictures of somebody who's got flies on their face and an distended belly because they don't have any food. And it's like, we get to see that every day in our world, and that bothers me. And I want it to bother other people, because if there's nothing else that I can do, part of the reason that we're doing this was being raised religious, and I'm going to go into a lot of different stories over hopefully the next year or whatever, however long this lasts and however long my daughters want to be involved, breaking down little stories. But I was raised religious, and so for the first 18 years of my life, I was a church kid. I was 100% church kid. I believed it. I lived it. I volunteered. I spent thousands of hours at the church working. I was in the business of the church. My grandfather ran an organization that sponsored churches, so he was in the business of churches. I lived with a youth pastor who's now a pastor who was one of those sponsored churches. And I worked thousands and thousands of hours volunteering for free for that church and literally kind of helped build it. But then when I started asking questions of that church, it just discarded me in the side of the road and kept on going, because that's kind of what they do, is they use you until they can gobble you or spit you out, and then that's it. And so it was like, for the first 18 years of my life, I grew up just believing that God was real and being a really good Christian person, until I started questioning Christianity and seeing all the negative aspects of Christianity. And so that's literally me and Bria. I've kind of broken this down over the last year and asked myself a lot of questions. And it was like, I was really happy during that time. I had a lot of fun helping people. I didn't care about getting rich. I didn't care about money. Yeah, I was doing it trying to get people to believe in God and that kind of thing. But what we did with that was we had lots of functions. We did lots of festivals and camp meetings, and I got to prepare a lot of food and entertainment and set up cameras and work, like that kind of stuff, and travel. And all of that was really fun, and I really enjoyed the giving back to people, the helping people, the working really hard to make a big event for a bunch of people to come and have fun at and get their bellies filled and have themselves entertained and feel better and socialize with other people. That was what I really enjoyed with church. And since then, I haven't found that. I've spent 25 years of my life looking for a place, and yeah, we have missions and we have those kind of places, but they're, again, even though they're nonprofit, there's usually somebody at the top that's profiting from those places, and I don't agree with that. and I don't agree with segregating humans and separating humans for different needs and wants. And so this is me starting asking the questions of how do we make the world a better place for everybody. I want to start a nonprofit called The Equal Being, because I really want the emphasis to be on less separation and more equality. Because it's like the only way that you can have rich people is if you have poor people. The only way that you can have powerful people is if you have weak people. And the truth is, we don't need powerful or weak people. We need everybody to be strong. We don't need rich and poor people, because rich people don't do anything. And so it's like most of the poor people are poor because they do most of the work for the rich. And so it's like this is our society that we've created, and we pretend like it's okay. And it's not. We have lots of people that go without and have nothing. And we literally all see it today. And that's been my biggest thing that has bothered me for most of my life, was that I was essentially told for the first 18 years of my life that God was real, and when I questioned that, nobody had any good answers for me. And then the world taught me to get married and get a job, and that was fine, but it was like I was telling all of this, like, I know it's not as simple as wolves and sheep, but for the most part, you're either a worker or an owner. You're a sheep or you're a wolf. And I don't like wolves. Wolves are horrible people. They take advantage of other people. They harm other people. But I'm also not a sheep, because I don't like to be told what to do, and I don't like to be told what to do without justification. And so I don't like people just telling you something to do just to tell you what to do. I will always question that kind of authority. If it's for a justified, real reason, then I have no problem with that. And so it's like I was told and sent out into a world where either I had to start a business where essentially you have workers who you underpay in order to be profitable, or you're a worker. And I didn't want to be either one of those. But then again, I don't want anybody to be either one of those, because we didn't evolve to do that. Humans didn't evolve to just be workers or owners. Like, that's not what we're about. And so we need to start having that challenging conversation. And so, Bria, what did you do this week?
What did I do this
Or
week?
tell us. You haven't talked, and I've been rambling.
I talked to Olive earlier.
Yeah.
I made a comment. I don't...
Did you?
We have to
I
do
don't
dinner,
remember.
and I was just wanting to get started, so I just got started, and I kind of liked how I started. I like just getting it going, and I'm going to see how I edit it, but it'll be like you guys coming down and us starting, so it's like...
I was having, back to like the believing in God thing, I was having a conversation with my friend, I think, last night, and I don't know how we got onto the topic of this, but I told my friend that I didn't believe in God. He's like, I do, but I'm not judging you for not believing in him. And I'm like, thank you for that, but I also my brain can't comprehend the fact that this one being could do so much for the world and create it. And I told him that I just can't believe that can be real. And I told him that if I did believe in any god or gods, I would believe in Greek gods, mainly just because they worked together to create our world, and I just can't believe that one person can do everything.
But then he didn't, so I mean, definitely we can talk about that all you want, because those were some of my biggest questions. So Grandpa, before he died, so my grandfather, minister, traveled all over the world, Philippines, Africa, Europe, then all over the United States. He owned where he was the leader of a church sponsoring foundation, essentially. So he made his living off of traveling and sponsoring churches and getting essentially paid to minister and spread his message. And so where was I going with that?
I don't know.
What were we talking about, or what did
God
you say?
creating the earth.
Oh, and God creating the earth. Oh, and okay, and well, so before I couldn't remember why I was talking about my grandpa, and so a couple years before, so I challenged my grandfather a few times, but he never was one to really talk to me. It was interesting because he speaked and preached and yelled beat red in the face and hoarse at his lungs, at like meetings and stuff. But whenever I tried to talk to him and question him about things, he would crumble immediately and never talk. And so it was one of those, like, I questioned, and one of the things I questioned him on was about, okay, so God made everything. So this is what God made? Literally, God's idea was, like, I have kids, and I would never put my kids in a room with a poison something and tell them, eat all this candy and hang out and do whatever you want, but don't touch or eat that thing, and then leave the room forever and essentially not do anything or come back until they touch, like that's just so weird. The whole, like, why did God have to make a perfect place, but then put a booby trap in the middle of it? Like, what kind of psycho does that? Like, that's not a cool person. I wouldn't make a barbecue for all my friends to come over and then make one of the steaks poisonous. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's a shitty person. And so I'm like, so God's idea was to make this perfect place for two people and put them in the middle of it, and then put a booby trap that when it went off, it literally ruined everyone's life for the rest of eternity. And he's supposed to be an all-knowing and all-loving God, so that means he did that knowing that they were going to mess up and that he was going to have to kick them out. And essentially, again, he made people to worship him. That sounds like a shitty parent that had kids just so that you can be worshipped by your kids. Trust me, I know what that's like. So it's one of those, like, literally, I thought about this God, and I'm like, you know what? Even if this God is real, I wouldn't want to hang out with him, because he made a shitty world by shit. So he creates the world, kicks the people, makes the world, makes the little perfect area for the people to be in, and then kicks those people out, knowing that they're going to have to incest for the rest of the time until then they mess up. So he knew that they were going to mess up, and he was going to have to make Moses build the ark and load Moses and his family onto the ark and kill everybody else on the earth, including all the animals, which, what did they do? But sure, got to kill all the animals now. And so now again, you've created this massive atrocity and wiped out everybody on the planet. And that's part of your plan again. And then after that, your plan is go make a bunch more people, have those people sacrifice other people to me for some reason. Like, you're the only God that's up there, and you're the only God that makes the rules. So you made the rule that if somebody does something bad, they have to sacrifice and drip blood in order to be forgiven. Like, what kind of God does that? And so it was so funny to me, and my grandfather couldn't answer any of those questions. Like, he literally shut down, went into fight or flight mode, and like ran out of the room. And it's interesting to me because, again, it was almost like he was afraid of the words that I was saying. Because, again, all that like religious and hierarchy stuff and respect, and I shocked the pants off of him that I just spoke so bluntly. And it was interesting to me. It's still interesting to this day. I called my mom, so my grandfather didn't talk to me for like the last 2 years before he died. I literally didn't talk to him once. And he just avoided me until he died. And it was interesting. I even called my mom like 6 months before he was he was pretty sick, and asked if I could, I was like, man, I would love to ask Grandpa if I could record him and me talking. And she said she wouldn't allow me to do it. And it was one of those at that time. I didn't think he would do it, but I was hoping maybe if she at least was on board, but I didn't think she would. And that too, it's so interesting. I encourage anybody that's ever had a problem with me or that I've challenged to come talk to me and talk about it, because the most frustrating thing to me is like that. I challenged my grandfather on what he told me was real for his entire life, and he could never sit down and have a conversation with me. And I don't want to ever be that adult. We don't need adults like that. Adults that can't sit and have a conversation about why they do what they do shouldn't be allowed to do things.
I told my friend that I dislike God, but I definitely have never hated the people who followed him.
No?
Because one of my best friends is Christian, and she's a really sweet girl. And I know a lot of people who are Christian. And I've also never read the Bible because I never grew up like that. My mom wanted me to grow up like that because she talked about me going to like Christian schools and like going to church and things like that. But my dad definitely was never that kind of person because of how he grew up and the things that he went through when he was a kid and like teenager. And so I definitely can't say a bunch, but according to my dad, he doesn't sound like a great person. So my brain can't comprehend people who have read the Bible, why he's apparently like this really good guy.
Well, and so my thing too is like, I don't mind if you believe in God because you've talked to God, then please tell me about it. But I've listened to so many people, Josh and my grandfather and just every other religious person tell me these really construed, made up, like not hypothetical, but I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but just really interesting scenarios that led them to believe in God. But it's never, oh yeah, I straight up talked to God. Like, I hear God in my head. Because even if I asked my grandfather, like, I never have heard God. I prayed thousands of hours. I was a worship guy. I was on the, like, lead team. I was on, like, the equivalent of, like, leadership team for the youth, kind of, And so I did all that extra stuff, partially because I was always looking for God. And I never found God. And it was like, I don't know what other people hear, what other people think, but everything I've ever heard is just somebody giving this weird justification story of somebody who heard something, who somebody died, and then they came back to life and they seen God or they heard God. And it's like, it's always these really construed, outlandish stories that somebody heard something from somebody else, and it's all interesting. And it's like, believe what you want to believe, but just know it's a belief. Don't, like, I was telling Olive or Bria this the other day, how it's interesting how people recently, or even in my lifetime, it seems like we seem like we knew stuff. Like, I was taught stuff in high school and middle school, and then probably a lot of that stuff that I was taught, I had to relearn it because either it was fake and it was kind of propaganda, or we've proven it wrong. Because I hear every day online, practically on TikTok or something, oh, science has confirmed that we didn't know what we were talking about and now we've figured it out. And so it's like, we had all this shit that we've made up for so long, pretty much by grown-ups. Again, that's why I don't like grown-ups, and that's why we're having this talk, because it's like, grown-ups have done that forever. The whole, I'm the grown-up so I know what I'm talking about, or how long, like, for me, I thought my grandfather knew everything, and he was the smartest person in the world, and that literally, like, he talked to God. And then come to find out, he's, like, never talked to God. He found Jesus like me through his family when he was like 5 and just believed it for the rest of his life, turned it into his personality and his job, and that was him. And it was like, well, so how do you know God's real? And it was just like, because I was told by somebody else that he was real. And then even as a young kid, you get that from grown-ups where you ask them a question and they don't want to say they don't know. Because it makes them sound dumb, potentially. And so they give some made-up answer. Or say that, that's how it is because I'm the grown-up or something. And you're just supposed to believe it. And it's like, that's what we've been... Before the internet, like back when I was a kid, there was no way to double-check your parents. And so parents and older and wiser people could make up whatever they wanted, and you just believed them if they said it with confidence. And it's one of those, that's what our world's been for so long, is essentially people just being able to tell you a story or tell you how things work, and you don't get to question it, either because they're your parent or they're your boss or they're your president or something. It's like, we're grown-ups now, we're real people, and we should all be able to be treated the same. For me, it's, you're either a young human being or you're a human being. That's pretty much it. It's either you're still young enough that you still are kind of learning and needing to be mentored, not told what to do, but shown through example and taught things, not barked orders at and be given chore lists and stuff. Like, you don't have kids so that you can give them chores. Like, I don't get that. Like, your kids are not your slaves, just like people who are around you shouldn't do work for you unless you are handicapped or something. You know, like, I don't know. What else do you guys want to talk about?
Bria, talk.
Bring up a subject.
Muffin is not a subject.
Hey. Aw, she's mad at me now.
To recap, people, we have Coda is our black cat that you've seen probably walk behind me a few times or climb up on the chair, depending on which camera I show. I'm going to try to do it this time where everything's on there. I have the 3 bubbles with our heads, and then I have like the other 2 shots somewhere in there that maybe if you can like zoom in or if the screen's big enough, you can at least see us. Because it's like, I want to have a camera. We have a camera over here that shows the front of the room, and now I've got a camera back here that shows the back of the room. And hopefully within a short amount of time, we'll have GoPros that will be on all of us so that we can actually be on our tablets. Because I'd like us to be able to take notes or pull up something on our social media, or hopefully as we have more engagement, we can go on. I mean, I want to go live. Like, hopefully once we gain enough followers, we can go live on TikTok and sit and talk and answer questions and be live. Like, I want this to be something that my daughters can be a part of. Again, I was brought up to believe that I was going to be Christian and I was going to be a pastor and that I was being groomed to work in the ministry of business or Christian business. And so that was what I was groomed to kind of be. I forgot where I was going with that as far as you guys go.
Conversations.
Dang it.
Writing notes. Having.
No, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Dang it. I was talking about the cameras. I was talking about growing and
You
us.
still haven't talked yet.
I've talked.
You've talked 2 sentences.
Yeah,
Me and Bria
and-
talked for 3 hours the other day. So me and
I
Bria
don't know,
have been
but I
having
feel like
some
it was
really good conversations.
More than 3 hours, though.
And
It
I've been
was-
challenging her. And so hopefully she doesn't quit, because so far every person and friend and family member that's been around me that I essentially challenge, they all end up like running away and don't talk to me anymore. And it's left my life pretty lonely and interesting. But it's one of those things, like, I like to have conversations. And so pretty much every person that I've had a conversation with is usually somebody that I care about, not somebody that I'm trying to hurt, but somebody that I am trying to make better, because I want people around me that make me better. And so far I haven't had people around me that made me better. My parents made me a Christian, my pastor made me a Christian, my ex-wife made me crazy trying to have kids and do whatever we did then. And so it's just one of those, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I felt like we talked more than 3 hours the other day, because it was almost from the time that we got home until dinner.
Yeah.
So it was like at
It was
least.
after
It was like
dinner.
3 hours.
But it was at least 4, because we got home around like 1 or 2.
And what was
But-
the main I was really pushing Bria because she's trying to go to college, and I'm definitely one of those. I wish I didn't know what to do, because again I had to deconstruct from my life, and so I really want my kids to have a better opportunity, both mentally, like I was kind of forced out of my house. I never felt like I was able to just find myself and be myself, because it was always dictator. This is how you have to think, this is what you listen to, this is what you watch. Like literally my entire youth was 100% monitored. Like, you were never free, you were always working, or somebody grown up or adult figure was always monitoring us, what we were watching, what we were doing. We were never taught anything and had freedom. It was always just like everything was controlled and everything was organized. And it's like, I really don't want my kids to grow up in that world. And it's interesting to me. And so I was challenging Bria a little, because, like, like today, Bria, Bria was off today, and so we got into a little tiff again when I came home. Not really, because I don't look at them as tiffs. I just say what I'm thinking, and my ex-wife and other employees or workers around me don't like when I say what I'm thinking. And so I came home. Bria's been gone all day. When I come home, I'm usually hungry. I usually want to take care of the dishes and any chores that I have as soon as I come home so that I can just chill and relax. And so I go into the kitchen. I've gone to the grocery store. I'm unloading groceries. And Bria comes in and starts trying to do her dishes and clean up stuff because she hasn't really done anything today, I don't think. I don't know. And so I pretty much tell her, get out of here. Get out of my way. And I definitely, I was frustrated because it was one of those, she got irritated at me that I was getting irritated at her. But I'm you didn't have to, the fact that as soon as I walked in the door, she came downstairs and was in the kitchen. So that means she essentially waited for me to come home to start doing something. And that was kind of annoying, or it was just wait until after I'm done to do whatever you need to do. But don't just because... first of all, I don't want to be that kind of person that you feel like you need to be scared and jump up because I came home. I had to do that with my parents, and I don't like that. And so, literally today, I might have said something because I am being more adamant about my point last night with Bria was for most of my entire marriage, I worked and did most of the cooking around the house. Plus a lot of cleaning because I wanted the house cleaner than my ex-wife. And so we would have arguments where I would want things to be cleaner and she wouldn't think that it was necessary to do that. And so she would be I'm not going to do it. And so that was fine. So we had those arguments back and forth. And now I'm fine. I enjoy being by myself and having to take care of myself and not have somebody else making messes. But it was kind of Bria's been out of school now for a year. And so things like today, it's my point with her was if you wanted to do the dishes, I had to unload the dishwasher, reload the dishwasher, put away the groceries so that I could cook myself some lunch. And I was if you really wanted to do the dishes and that kind of thing, you could have done those before I got home. And so now I'm in here, I'm going to do the dishes just like I normally would and take care of this stuff, make myself lunch, cook dinner, and then we're going to record a podcast. And so it's the only reason that I call people out around me is because I do that. And I've always done that. But yet I always get demonized and made to sound like a jackass when I call people out around me and I'm be better, do more, try harder. And that's been my message for my ex-wife, my son, my daughters, workers that I've worked with, co-workers, anybody. I volunteered at the church a couple of years. Didn't volunteer, I got paid there, but I got called in. It was the fireworks thing, and I was being pretty adamant with some of the volunteers, and someone said something to me that were just volunteers, and I was I got you, but we're still working here, and so it was I'm just like that. If we're working, it's time to work or something. And again, call me out on my bullshit if you want to call me out on my bullshit ever, because I will either defend myself or I will correct myself. I'm not one of those people to back down when you call me on my bullshit, because I'm either going to stand up and defend myself as to why what you're calling me out on is incorrect, or I'm going to be okay. Because I've never wanted to be one of those people that left a mess for somebody else to have to clean up. I always try to leave things nicer and better than I found it. Part of being a fat person, I think I don't like people to be you're a fat slob, and so I've always made an extra special effort to never be a fat slob, to always work harder and try harder. I know I'm fat. That's my one weakness and fault in this world, that I'm not a drug addict, I'm not a cheater, I'm reliable, I'm dependable, but I love food, man. I don't know why, but that's just my one weakness, is I like to eat. So
I don't know why, but this randomly popped into my head.
I love that.
With you talking about food.
Yeah.
And then knowing that Bria went out and worked out today.
Oh, yes.
The weather is getting nicer, so at our school we go outside more. and that's just
Oh, you guys
like
get outside time?
yeah, we get outside time.
Outside time?
I
Yeah,
never got
yeah.
outside time.
We get outside time in science and PE.
What? That's crazy.
And, well, mainly just in PE because my PE teacher is pregnant. And so she has to be out a lot due to those issues. And so... well, I know her and she's like, man, I got a really bad headache today. I can't go into work. And so, things like that. And so we'll go outside to have, like, free choice. And there's these boys in our class who will like throw balls at us. And also like my friend Eleanor, she was on my volleyball team and she's just close with a lot of my other friends, and so we know each other really good. They'll make comments on her because she's a very flexible girl and she works out a lot, and so she was stretching and they'd make comments on her body and things like that. And I've also had one of those times where me and my friends were just sitting in a circle outside because our subs really don't care too much what we're doing. So we were just sitting there passing a ball around, and these boys from the other class would take off their shirts and try and like be really loud and try to get them to look at us, or like try and get us to look at them. And then if we ever did, they'd be like, ooh, you like what you see, huh? And then like try and like run up to us.
Our teachers.
And, well, our teachers aren't very, our subs aren't very,
They're a sub. What do
they're
you expect?
subs.
What do you
And
expect
so-
from a sub?
For them to keep the kids' clothes on their body? Like,
Well, it's not, it's usually kids from the other class. Which
well, it
still
doesn't
is
matter.
like-
They're still
They're still outside, their teacher is still there.
Well, I'm saying
But-
there's still a teacher in that scenario.
There
They're
is,
still like
and
put
the boys,
don't.
well, I'm just saying it's usually on our track and our football, and so we're usually on like the other half, like the back end, and the teachers usually stay near the gate to make sure nobody comes
But
in.
still, you're
in
saying
that
they'd
time.
be loud and obnoxious, and they don't
Yeah,
realize
but that's
that
just
there's
kind of what
boys with
boys
their no
are.
shirt. But I'm just saying they don't realize that there's boys with no shirts on, like making a bunch of noise. Like, I don't know, that's so
How are we
weird.
doing with other kids?
What else?
Well,
Well, so yeah, I mean, well, so I was gonna say, so you're in 6th grade now. So all of my kids went to like a really small charter school where it's family, very hippie kind of ish, very it's an alternative program kind of, and so they went to a very alternative program K through 5. And then they go to our neighborhood school, and the neighborhood school is a pretty it's one of the most like affluent areas in town, and so it's definitely a complete culture shock going from a very small, very family quaint elementary school to all my kids went to this complete shock of a middle school where it's 600 or 700 kids, and I know that's not big for everybody, but for around here it's pretty good for a middle school. And Olive was having some troubles adjusting, troubles with other kids, all that kind of adjustment kind of thing. So how is that going? Like, have you had issues with people lately, or do you feel like you're finding your way better?
I've just had issues with boys because boys are boys, especially at our
But are
age
they
now.
like? Do they like
But-
you because you're cute, or are they being mean to you and rude? I mean, are you like? Is that it? Do you feel
I
like
think,
they're
like,
flirting with
They
you,
aren't
or
trying to like be mean or anything. They're definitely. I don't think it's like flirting.
yeah?
They're just trying to get the attention of girls.
Okay.
And so a lot of boys in like 6th and 7th will just like get any attention from girls whatsoever, even if he doesn't like her. And so that's definitely from my experience, but I don't know. And I definitely had a lot of girl issues toward like the beginning of the year that stopped me from like wanting to go to school because they were being really rude and just, they were older girls, and my dad always pointed that out. But they were older girls, like 8th graders, and they'd come over to my table and make fun of like me and my friends, and like
yeah, and that's
lie
just dumb
to
people being
people.
dumb.
and like lie to teachers that we went to and saying like they started it, even though we've never talked to them in our life, and we don't even know their names. And things
Again,
like
that's
that.
just something you have to deal with, and you have to learn to just be like, who cares? You know, like dumb people are gonna be dumb like people in those like little tiny powerful positions, like I've been here longer than you kind of thing, think that they're better because that's what humans do, is we like to separate ourselves into I'm better than you kind of. So we like to be special. So but everything else, like nothing. So do you feel like some of it was just like you needing to adjust some of you? Have you kind of changed who you are a little bit, do you feel like, in the last few months?
I changed who I started hanging out with.
Okay.
Mainly because I found out those people were like really bad people. Well, not bad people, just they made bad decisions without kind of realizing it, and they wouldn't take control of their actions and advocate and be like, yeah, I did that and that's my fault. They were never like that.
Okay.
And
but you think so it was you maybe found some friends that you latched onto at the beginning because you just needed friends, and then you realized, again, you have to, if you're not a follower, you have to make tough decisions where you literally, some people are not good for you, even though you think you're friends with them or something. Like, they're not moving you in the direction that you want to go with your life. And that's why I've lost everybody in my life, because every person that's challenged the direction that I'm going, even though I that's the thing, is I'm not right. I'm not going in a direction that, I don't want people to follow me. I want to help people not need to follow anybody. Like, we don't need people that follow other people. Like, that's our very primitive ancestors needed to follow people, and it's an education thing. It's like, smart people can't be controlled. So I'm not saying like, dumb and smart as in like what, like that kind of thing. I'm saying just intellectually, we had white colonizers that thought that they were better than villagers for whatever reason, because they would label them as savages or something. Just that kind of labeling thing has continued on for our entire existence, and I don't like that. And so it's like that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm doing this as well, is to try to help you guys understand that and help be that example, I guess, that I never had and that I don't see online. Like, the first show was so rambly, especially too, because I still don't know what I'm doing. I still am, like I told Bria, this is like me laying down the first brick in my pyramid. Is like, I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I know I haven't found somebody else that was talk the way that I talk. And whenever I've had a person that was an authority figure that seemed like they had it figured out, whenever I would sit down one-on-one with them and challenge their ideas, they all turned into the same people, and it was really interesting to me. It's like the people that do the worst things and be the worst people are the people that hide the most, like your bosses, like government people, like rich people. They don't come out and talk with normal people. They act like they're special, but it's really like they do so much shitty things, and you've had to be such a shitty person to get to places of power and authority that you just can't really talk to normal people, because hopefully they're going to call you out on your bullshit. So all of you go turn the oven off and open the door. Bria, tell us a story about what you're doing for, because again, that was something else during our 3-hour marathon. We should have recorded it. Again, I've now said that, like, me, the reason that we're partially doing this is that me and Bria have just some amazing marathon conversations, and it's like that Sunday was like, I wish I could have recorded all of that and put it online. No problems. I wouldn't have qualmed about it at all, because it was all stuff I wanted to say. It was all challenging her to be a better person, and she wants to be a librarian, and my big thing was, don't just be a librarian, be more than a librarian. And it sounds like she does want to be more than just a librarian, but nothing wrong with just librarians. I just want her to be the most that she can be, and so I was pushing her to answer some questions about being a librarian, and we had a really great discussion, and I got some really good answers, and so she can now talk about that.
That's the weirdest way to try to get me to
Yeah,
engage.
Bria, start
Tell me
talking.
about being a librarian.
No, I was asking you to talk about, because
No.
that's what's kind of you're working on in your life, is working towards getting to school to get stuff going to be a librarian. And so I was introducing that idea and saying that from our conversation, I'm fine with you being a librarian. Be just a librarian. But also try to be, because my thing is not that I just want you to not do something. It's that I want to help people. So people who just I'm going to be a librarian, but it doesn't seem like there's I want to help the world by being a librarian. That's what I mean by be more than a librarian, or be more than an accountant or something, is do you help people with what you're doing? And so that's kind of, I think I say it wrong, is not just, don't just be a librarian, be better than that.
But you say things like that, and I think it's kind of funny, because librarians, especially librarians that work at our local whatever public libraries, they do a lot of helping people. Libraries are usually a place where people can come to. If you go to the one downtown, people whether if you are a houseless person, you're a person without a house and you need somewhere to go, you can go to the library. If you need help with things, you often go to the library. That was something that when I was doing my internship, the person who I was internshipping under talked with me a lot about, is that sometimes there's the fun things, or the fun things that I find fun, which are I do like reshelving books. Okay, I'm really good at spotting ones that are in the wrong spot, because I'm going off here. But when they were teaching me how to shelf read, which is shelf reading is when you look for books that are put in the wrong spot. While teaching me, I was catching books that they were missing while walking between the whatever. So I really like those things.
See, now you sound like a savant, and we need to put that to use helping other people instead of just books. You need that focus.
Come on, but don't be just books.
Things like people the people in the libraries who decide what books to buy. There's those fun parts, but a lot of it is community work. It's building a place where people can come to and establishing that community. And I can see it a lot. Well, that one was not the downtown one, but I can see it even in the downtown one.
There's
in the
burrito nights. For teens, there's burrito nights on Wednesdays.
In the youth area, where there is a strong community with the people who come there regularly. So it's just being a librarian is, I feel much more than you give it credit for. But I also feel because he's going to cut me off.
Huh?
But I also feel it's one of those things where being a librarian doesn't dictate the entirety of my life. That I can be a librarian and I can be someone who causes change. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Just because I'm a librarian doesn't mean that I can't do more.
But I'm saying from my point of view, or not from my point of view, from my experience, when you pick a career path like that, you get so absorbed into moving up in your career, and you're going to help people when you get further along in your career. And we have too many people that are when I get successful, I'm going to give back and that kind of thing. Or, I don't know, or you're so focused on climbing the ladder that helping people and doing things for other people, it's really easy to be selfish. And so that was my thing. And my thing too is with just being you work at a community library or a school library, there's so much politics and hierarchy. Again, it's you're going to start off as a peon at a library and maybe someday work your way up to being the position that you want. But my thing is create your own thing. I was telling her, don't work in somebody else's library. Let's go out and Indiana Jones some books out of the fucking pyramids or something, and
don't wanna-
clean them up and preserve them and restore them and share them. Like we were talking about Library of Alexandria. Like that's one of the biggest tragedies of our history, and I think it was probably done on purpose. Just again, I grew up religious, so religious people really like to control information. They like to control what you watch. They like to control what you read. It's very propagandized. And so I bet it was somebody, because think about all the conquering bodies. Think about the Crusades and all the like colonizers that came along. Do we learn about the real Native American history in the United States? No, we learn about colonizing white American history of the United States. And so it's like we're just finally starting to figure out things that happened here, because literally bad people would come in and kill everybody and eliminate all of the culture, burn all of the art, destroy all of the books, and then tell the story about how they cleansed the bad people out of the area and made it safe for all of us to come and live in. And it's like, that's our entire history, and I hate that. And so, but I'm like, and so it's not, I'm just like, not like, don't just be a library. Build a community of people sharing amazing art and new stuff, and where you're not limited by some board of directors or some, whatever at the library, that even though you get to pick which books, you can't just pick which books because there's personal agendas or business agendas. And so it's like, be an independent person, be an independent thinker, and create some independent special space. And that's what I'm trying to do. Like, I don't want to be a part of, I want to be a part of everyone's thing, but I also want to do my own thing, because I haven't found a thing that just provides everything for everybody. And we live on a planet right now that has enough resources and has the capability to provide everything that everybody needs on the planet, but we just can't figure out how to do it because everybody's so selfish. Everybody's so, I gotta keep what I'm doing, and I've gotta make laws and adjust the way our society works just to benefit my thing. And it's like, that's the world that we live in today. The United States of America that we live in today was created through men coming over here, stealing land from a bunch of people, enslaving a bunch of other people in order to create resources and wealth. And here we are, slave-free and just a free country with great everything, So I'm saying, like, this whole make America great again, like, when was America great? When women couldn't vote? I mean, the men who wrote the Constitution owned slaves and didn't believe that women or foreigners had rights. And then we've spent like 200 years trying to amend the Constitution, and we abolished slavery 100 years ago, but we didn't abolish slavery. And we still have people that are slaves today, and we have a system that fails us all, but yet we're told to just keep going, go America, and that kind of thing. It's sad and it's silly, and I want to be a part of affecting change for the better, for everybody, for making more equality, not seeing people die, not seeing people starve, and not for my mission. Like, I don't want it to be, there's 350,000 churches in the not churches, nonprofits, but a pretty good portion of those are churches. If we literally took all of the church buildings and all of the church money in the United States, we could pretty much solve every problem that we have. Because so far, no church has ever solved those problems. Because they're each individual churches all trying to conquer the world by themselves. We live in Eugene. There's probably 50 or 100 Christian churches that are registered in this town, and plenty of other garage and living room churches that people have on their own that aren't registered. And it's like, that's our entire culture right now, and that's who we are as a country. And that's something that I grew up with that I want to affect change. It seems like you're melting.
I am melting.
All right. Are we done? Do you have anything else to add today, Bria?
No.
Do you have any other point? Because you had something to say when I was talking.
I was going to say that before, when we were talking about books, I had a conversation, and it was something that I went to an alternative high school. My older siblings went to the middle school, the high school that our middle school fed into, but I went to an alternative high school. And this was not like, this is a conversation I think we had every year, and it was about banned books.
Not bad.
And I think it was a really like funny conversation because first off, I think with my dad and even kind of my mom, my mom's a weird person, but or it's a weird thing, whatever.
Special.
But so kind of with the like I feel like saying I respect authoritative figure sounds weird, but like it's a give and take. Anyway, but we were having this conversation we had like a banned book week, and we were having a conversation about banned books and whether we thought it was okay to ban books. And I don't know if it's like one of those things where I'm a book collector. That's like part of the reason I want to be a librarian is I already really enjoy collecting books. And I do believe there is no reason that a book should be banned. You cannot tell me a reason, and I just won't believe you. Because my teacher, what he always does every single year was he'd be like, what if it was a book that taught you how to make bombs? Because he's like, there is this book, and he knows the title of it, I don't care, that teaches you how to make multiple different kinds of bombs. And I was just like...
Just make bombs.
And I was like, I don't care. I was like, it doesn't matter, because no matter what, bad people are going to do bad things. You can try to restrict stuff as much as you want, but the truth of the matter is that if people want to do those bad things, they're going to do those bad things. And so, like, I just think it's really funny, and I was having a conversation about, like, we were talking about banned books, and one of the things that he said later on in the conversation was the fact that banned books aren't a thing anymore, and I think that's laughable, because... maybe in your mind, like, we don't have we don't ban books the same way that you might think of, but when you are restricting, kind of like how my dad was saying how you can't just buy whatever books you want to buy, when you're restricting what someone is able to get to, what people are able to get their hands on, that is banning books. That is, so like, no matter what, you are restricting them, and people restrict things for silly reasons. It's one of those things where you can go to a conservative area and they can restrict LGBTQ things, they can restrict BIPOC things, they can do almost whatever they want to do because they're the adults or whatever. But that is banning books, whether you want to use that word or not. You are being like, these books have these things that we don't believe in, so we're not going to give you access to them. And that's just, it's always a silly point. I think it can go with anything, that it's a kind of a toss-up, but yeah. It was just, I always find it really funny because...
Well, for me, every system, there is no open system. Or, I mean, I guess I can't say that, but most systems are closed systems. And what I mean by system is a religion or a government. Even your town, your family's a system. Like... most systems are not open. Like, you have closed information. And so in the United States, I guarantee you there's books that are written in other countries that we don't have access to.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of books that are written in the United States that we don't have, that people don't have access to. And again, that's gatekeeping. That's been a thing forever. Hoarding information has created power. And so it's just one of those bad things that we've always had to deal with. But that's a big thing that I want to bring down too. Like with the TikTok thing, the TikTok ban. I seen a creator, essentially saying that with the Jeff, was it Jeff? Whoever the guy, he's a politician who like became famous because of TikTok, and then he voted, for the TikTok ban. Mm-hmm. And in his apology video, he came out and said, "Oh, I voted because I've been a part of meetings where I've got information that you don't have access to." And it's one of those why? Well, the government's not my grown-up. The government's not my parent. It's like, why does the government that represents me get to have all sorts of secrets and ideas and things that they know about? Like, most of us do not trust our politicians. So when our politicians tell us that they have secrets that they can't tell me, well, that just means, untrustworthy people are doing even shittier things that they can't talk to you about. We already know all the shitty things that they do that we know and we talk about. Now they're like, we do such shitty things that we can't even tell you about them. And so it's like, we as citizens need to be like, this is our government represents us. I don't support genocide. I don't support secrets. I don't support unjustified power. Like, we need to start having those conversations. Everything that we have in place today, as far as our societal structure, somebody at some point put it in place and it can be changed. We don't have to just accept the way things are, and that's what I want to teach my kids. Boing. Is that episode 2?
Sure.
In the bag?
I think so.
Okay, we're going to be back on Saturday. I'm going to have a friend over that's going to talk, and so we're going to record 3 episodes this week. It's going to be interesting, but we're going to try to get as much out as we can so that we can start to have more engagement. I feel like the more episodes we can kind of put out there and then start getting more engagement, these guys are going to hopefully start having things that they want to talk about, and we'll find and get engagement with that. But thanks, everybody, and we'll see you later.
You did it last time.
Yes, let's get going.